Good people of the world, I come to you in a time of great sorrow and strife, a time of uncertainty for many, and a time of retribution for others. While this may be so, I would like to state that this speech has no origin in fringe ideas or mentalities. This is me speaking my truth and what I believe in, and what I believe is necessary for the world to hear and take into consideration. The ideas and concepts you shall hear from me right now go against the very foundations of society as we know it to be, not only in our United States, but in the greater collective of humanity. Ideas of hope beyond hope, and a future so great that the world has never seen it like this before. However, I will not be speaking of the police brutality or the government scene in the United States. Rather, I shall be speaking to all of society, all together, and to those who can understand me and hear me and will listen to my words. So with all that said, a miracle has happened, one rarely seen in the cosmos. Humanity was born. Whether you believe it to be from nothingness or from God, humanity was born. We were born together as one population, one collective. We the people of this earth are not races. No, we are a species of humans. To see each other as separate races would be wholly wrong and egregious. Race is an arbitrary form of thinking. It's an erroneous way to classify our peoples. The color of one's skin is not determined by any factor that individual can control, but by the production of an insignificant substance called melanin. The very idea and phrase used to describe the amount of melanin in one's skin, race, denotes a competition that started from birth. If we are not all one population, one species, then tell me, what are we racing against? Each other? The creatures of the earth? The universe? No, race is simply a word used to divide the free people of the earth and cause undue strife amongst us. Look to the animals that inhabit our planet alongside us. Do they divide based on color? Based on their fur or skin? A black terrier would not refuse to play with a white pit bull, for they are social creatures, simple and loving. They recognize that they are the same species, and so they do not divide based on color. Instead, they love because of their shared traits. And again, we can see that a brown dog is simply a dog, a white dog is a dog, and so on. We do not group their breeds by way of color, but rather by their traits. If so, why then do we not do the same with humanity? Not recognize the skin, but instead the heritage and the culture of every individual. So how would we go about ending this system, this idea of racism? In order to demolish a building, you first start with the structure and its foundation. So, too, could we end racism? In my humbled opinion, founded by the hearing the ideas of others and molded in meditation and deliberation, I believe that the only way to truly end racism is to end the concept of race altogether. The structure of race should be demolished. Now, I know these concepts may seem unorthodox, perhaps, and not unlike the ramblings of a madman. You may be having the thoughts along the lines of, this could never happen and it will never happen. Well, I tell you, my friends and brothers and sisters, that this is a hopeless mindset. Cast away those doubts, rebuke those fears, for they will only hinder you on this journey. Racism is not a big, great beast. It's not a fortress incapable of being overthrown. Racism is a way of thinking. It's a state of mind. As we have seen time and time again in our wonderful world, states of mind can shift. Why then can't we do the same with the idea of racism and its Darwinistic approach? I propose that instead of classifying each other based on race and on color, we instead embrace our lifestyles and our heritage. Identify with your country, with your tongue, with your culture. These are the things that truly make each and every one of us unique and cherished. Take Africa for an example. How can one take all of its nations and cultures and ideas that it holds and simply just call it all of it black. To do so is a great injustice to every single culture that calls Africa their home, and was done to dehumanize the people who were taken into slavery so long ago. I, for one, will not hold on to these bonds of my ancestors and their hatred-filled past. I choose to be the hallmark to all future generations who can hold on to my words and cherish our ideas and let go of the ideology of race. Perhaps holding on to race is not hateful by intent, but still it's racist altogether. Compare it to holding on to a Bible. Holding one doesn't make you Christian, yet the Bible is still Christian, is it not? So too it is with race. Not hateful, but dividing and nonetheless. While I do understand the desire to hold on to the past and the hesitancy of moving past traditional values, the values themselves are just morally wrong. It will take great effort to fully rid us of race. But I truly believe that a future in which we are not bound by our ancestral ideals of division and hatred is possible. However, it is only possible if we work towards that future together as one. Recently, I found myself speaking with someone who had this hopeless mentality, and I told them of my dream for the future, and they told me that people will always identify with their race and that it's human instinct. But this is simply wrong. Realize now that it was not the instinct of our people to divide based on color. It never was. It was those in power back during the heights of human division that decided how to separate us from our fellow man. They did so with the concept of race, making sure it cemented into the minds of our true ancestors. So if we keep this idea of race and its idea of competition, then these races will always try to be better than one another, never seeing each other as equals, not truly. But don't lose hope. While it may seem like a hill that's impossible to climb, the answer needs only the support of the people's minds to work. If we as humanity can recognize that the color only comes from geographical location, and instead of believing there are any quote-unquote races, the notion of racism would die that day. We could instead refer to each other as our own cultures and our nationalities: American, Mexican, Japanese, Arabian, South African, and so on. Not white, black, brown, or yellow. If we do that, then we can focus on the person's essence and their heritage and their culture as a person, and not categorizing them based on color. Like, which broad stroke race can this man claim right here? I would very much like to know, because he looks just the same as this guy. What race can this man claim? Some of you will say black, but most wouldn't know what to say, because he does not originate from an African nation. A Hispanic person can appear just as white as I am, and an Indian man just as black as a Jamaican man. This flaw in the concept of race should give you an idea of just how wrong the idea of race is. Yet it is somehow ingrained into all of our minds. And the hopelessness and thought process of it could never happen is wrong. It won't happen if we let these words fall to the wayside and into a ditch. The only way it won't happen is if we, as humanity, take no action. A concept with the magnitude of racism has never been eliminated before. It is a daunting task that we have ahead of ourselves. But in this age, we finally have the chance to do something about it. We have the whole of society able to communicate at the touch of our fingers. Our forefathers nearly eliminated slavery in their time, after it had existed for millennia. Let us be the generation that finishes what they started and eradicate racism in this modern world. Of course, we are all still human. Changes these great cannot be done overnight. They take time to fully work in our lives. So do not be discouraged if race doesn't disappear instantaneously. Instead, be grateful for every small step we take to eliminate it. Have hope, have faith, and rest assured that so long as humanity works together to rid ourselves of this ideology, the situation isn't hopeless. This is how we will change our world, together. And in doing so, we would need to let go of the shadows in our past and not allow them to dictate our future. We can be the ancestors that dictate that future. We can be the ancestors that future generations will hold on to, and to hold on to our ideas of shedding racism and embracing the individuality and culture. That's the future that we should hope for, to strive for as humanity as one. I give you now a call to action to all the millennials and to all Generation Z and anyone who will hear me right now, and to see this message and to recognize that we can change our generation's future and change the next generation's point of view completely, but only if we do this together as humanity. There may yet be the people that will continue to hold on to the ideas of racism, people who refuse to change. Sadly, even the idea of slavery is still accepted by individuals to this day. However, together as one, we can turn the ideology of race away. Together we can reject it, and together we can relegate it to the pages of a history book, just as our forefathers have done with slavery today. Teach not your children that the idea of race, and instead teach them the ideas of nation, and of cultural heritage, and of humanity being a whole. There will always be those who judge others based on skin color, simply because it is different. But they can't single out any quote-unquote race if we simply rid our minds of that concept in the first place. I am aware that the terms black and white have their own histories and cultures behind them, but they are also directly connected to the bonds of our ancestors' hatred-filled ideals. If we were to get rid of the division between black and white, then we first must let go of the terms altogether. See that they are tied to what our ancestors hated. They are words of the old world, and we can start the world anew. The world is capable of change, if we move it to do so. Listen to me now, brothers and sisters of humanity. I believe that we can live in a world free from the bonds of race. And I believe that we can live in that world soon. History has shown us time and time again that those who take action as a whole can change the face of the world that they live in. And I am here to tell you that we can too, but only if we work together to do so, as one together. So hear these thoughts and think on my words you have heard today. If we all lend an ear and listen for a while, then maybe we can change the world tomorrow, and together for the freedom of our world. Thank you for listening, and my name is Landon Enis. This is my truth, and this is my dream. So basically, I'll now open up my social media for any questions that you might have. Please feel free to ask about anything or ask for support, and I will do my best to help you with what you need. It's Landon Loves God on Instagram. So to ask questions and to inquire further or help spread the message, ask me here. So there, Landon Loves God on Instagram, landon.loves.god. So yeah, I'm done speaking. Yeah, thank you for listening, I guess. Peace.